We have a grilled maple brine pork chop.
Grade B maple syrup runs in Greg's veins. It is his sweetener of choice. So anytime we're trying to balance a dish, we tend to go for the maple. We start the brine by cutting a head of garlic in half. We place it in a pot with water. To that we add kosher salt, maple syrup, grade B, granulated sugar, dried thyme, black peppercorns, and bay leaf. We let it simmer so that all those flavors can come together and develop. Then we strain it. We cool the brine first before putting the pork chops in it so that the pork chops don't start to cook.
We brine it for 24 to 48 hours. The reason why we brine it for so long is because it's just a really big pork chop. After we remove it from the brine, pat it dry, we season it. We season it with olive oil first, and then we add kosher salt and black pepper. We like to season not just on the bottom and just not on the top, but we like to season all the way around because we feel like a large piece of meat like that can handle a little bit more salt. Plus, those little bits that are a little bit too salty and a little bit too peppery, to me, those are my favorite parts of the meat. To prepare the grill, we needed to get a little bit hotter of a heat because we needed something that was going to sear the pork chop, give that nice caramelization, as well as hold a fire for a longer period of time. When we get the grill nice and hot, we're going to put that pork chop on the grill. It's going to start to cook. We start with putting the largest width side of the pork chop down. We're going to grill that for about 5 to 8 minutes, flip it over, and we're going to grill that side for another 5 to 8 minutes. And then we're going to stack it up on the bone side and get that bone nice and hot. You know, you get that bone nice and hot, that it's going to cook through the meat a lot better. Once it's cooked through, you're going to want to pull it off the heat, let it rest, but don't let it rest too long where it cools off all the way. One of the great pleasures of eating a big piece of meat like this is to eat a hot piece of meat.
We are very fortunate to get some of the best carrots in the country here.
The pork chop mixed with the sweet maple of the carrots, it's just something that really, really balances. We're going to take water and butter and maple syrup and combine that in a pan. We're then going to put that over heat and start to melt that. We'll get that nice and hot and it'll start to boil. Then we'll add our carrot. When we add our carrot, we'll also add a little bit of seasoning. Then I'll add our salt and a little bit of white pepper. We then cover it. The reason why we cover the carrots is so that the carrots will release their natural liquid. And when you release that natural liquid, you'll see that they'll get really watery. That's when you're going to want to remove the top. And then that's when you reduce that carrot maple butter combination. And that is what the magic is in glazed carrots. When the carrots are done, the carrots are going to be soft and tender, not mushy. They'll have a glaze on them that won't fall off very immediately. These two dishes at Ox come a la carte, but we think they're a perfect match. The first thing that we do to plate this is that we put down about a dozen carrots. We then put the pork chop down on top of it. We're going to garnish it with little dollops of chev, or the goat cheese, around, truffle pistachios, evenly distributing around the plate. To finish the dish, we're going to garnish the plate with tarragon leaves, flaked sea salt, maple syrup, and olive oil. And there it is. That's our maple brine pork chop and maple glazed carrots. When you get this dish, you're going to be really satisfied with the smokiness, the saltiness, the tenderness of the pork. That on top of these carrots that are tender and beautiful, that have this really nice crunch from the salted pistachio, the herbal note from the tarragon, and then the creaminess and the acidity of the goat cheese. The pork chop and the carrot is always special because it brings back those memories from when you're a child of eating a really delicious cut of meat, and it satisfies you on all levels.
It's also something that we hold very dearly to our hearts because it's a style of cooking that we've really just kind of embarked on together and kind of gone deeper into it from basically the moment that we met.
The pork chop and the carrots definitely capture the story of Ox. It's two items that are really good on their own, but by adding a few components here and there, it brings it up to a whole new level.